My name is Virginia Spisak. I was born in the house on Cottrell Street in Delray. Back then they had midwives who would come out to the house. And so I was born on February 23rd, 1938. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, in southwest Detroit. It was in the Delray area, and lived there until 1955, 57, yeah. Virginia was kind of a popular name back then. It wasn't in relation to anyone else that they knew. My grandmother came from Poland. I'm not sure which town, or if I did, I couldn't pronounce it. And my grandfather, I'm really not sure if he was born in Pennsylvania or just where, because they were married when they met in Detroit. Well, we called him Jaja all the time. That was in Polish, grandfather. I believe his name was, oh my gosh, Louis. And my grandmother's name was Caroline. Yes, they met in Detroit. He was a bus driver. And my grandmother would take the bus, to work. And that's how they met. Well, my grandfather was quite tall. And he lost his leg in an accident. And he had a wooden leg back then as a prosthesis. And didn't work too much after that, I believe. And my grandmother, she cleaned houses and had other jobs. But she was short and thin. I can't remember too much about her.
Do you remember what their personalities were like, and if you had any special memories with them?
Well, they mostly spoke Polish and but broken English. My grandfather, he passed away many years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but we were quite young, so I don't remember too much about him. But my grandmother used to take us for walks when we'd go to visit, and we'd walk for miles, it seemed. But she enjoyed that, They lived in Detroit, yes, around McGraw-Cecil area by St. Andrews, and I'm trying to think of the high school. I guess it was St. Andrews High School then at the time. Mm-hmm.
Very nice. So, switching gears to your paternal grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So, what were their names?
My grandfather's name was Dmitri. Actually, it was Dmitri Belov. And my grandmother was Christina. Can't remember her maiden name. But they were married in Macedonia. They came from Booth. And when they came to the U.S., they had to change their names. I think the Greeks were in charge of the country at the time, or had taken over, and they were changing all their names. And from Belov, my grandfather's father's name was Stefan, so they added OFF to it. They're adding OFF to all the Macedonians. So when they came over, it was Dmitri and Christina Stefanov. My father was born in Booth as well, and he was 10 when they came over. He was the only child that came over with them. And then they had 3 others then, while they were here in the U.S.
Okay, so he was the oldest?
Yes, my dad was the oldest. My grandfather, well, I don't remember too much. He spoke mostly Macedonian, and my grandmother too, but he spoke broken English more so than she did. And what I remember about my grandfather, he used to like to sit outside under the tree in the summertime and keep an eye on Aunt Sil and myself. And he had an old leather belt that was made into a strap. And we'd get a whack whenever we got out of hand. Because my mom and dad, worked, and he was our babysitter.
So then, did your younger siblings know him as well?
Um, Maybe just for a couple of years. Yeah, I can't remember when,
Yeah,
when he passed.
I gotcha.
And my grandmother, she really didn't speak English, and she tried to teach us Macedonian, and she would laugh every time we would try to talk because we never pronounced anything right. But we got along.
So what did you say that you called them?
Baba and Dedo. Well, at the time that they lived there, while we were living there with them, neither one were employed. My grandfather used to have a restaurant, and I don't know if my grandmother ever worked there. And my dad did. We just used to, they had name days, and all the people that came over from Macedonia, it seemed like we were visiting almost every week because everybody would be celebrating a name day. And we always had a lot of company too. But those were the things, because they stayed home pretty much other than the visiting part,
All right, so your mother and father, what were their names?
Thomas and Josephine. Thomas Stepanoff and Josephine Chepek.
And those are your parents?
Those are my parents. I think my mom was working at my dad's and my grandfather's restaurant. It was the Lawndale Lunch, and she was working there, and that's how they met. My dad was always, he wasn't a tall guy, and he was always very slim. And my mom was on the chunky side.
And then what were their personalities like?
Never thought about that too much. But they liked to play cards. They were always going out with their friends playing cards, and it was a fun couple, yeah. Mom was more on the quiet side, but yet when they were with their friends, they were different. Yeah, it's...
Yeah, because I mean, generationally, it's a little different now of how parents act with their children. So,
yeah,
having that separation or reservation is, kind of more common back in the day.
Well, my dad, other than being in the restaurant business for several years, he worked at Ford Motor, and then my mom was a cook at the Delray Hospital for many years there, and she could walk right to work. It was like right across Jefferson Avenue there.
So what was your relationship like with your mother and father?
It was a good relationship, yes. We thought a lot about one another, and they helped us when we could help them, Oh, we had many, many fishing trips, overnight fishing trips to Pontiac Lake. They'd be out on the boat fishing, and we'd be in the car sleeping. But almost every weekend, we went fishing. Yes, it was a fun time at times, but yeah, my dad couldn't wait to get out there on the lake, and my mom loved it too.
Were you guys closer with your mom's side of the family or your dad's side of the family?
Probably my mom's side. But like my Uncle Louie and my Aunt Sophie, they were younger, and they used to come by quite a bit, and they would take us to the park and go skiing or ice skating in the winter and sledding. So they did that, a lot with us. And we were close to both sides, but probably more so to my dad's side. Well, we were close to my mom's. They were more our age. So I was kind of close to my cousin Kenny, and then Cynthia. And But then on my dad's side too, my Aunt Mary's daughters, and then my Aunt Fanny. So our cousin, we mingled quite a bit.
Did the two sides of the family get together often, or was it more so you spent time with your mom's side and then your dad's side?
Usually at Christmas, most of us would be together, both sides. Yeah. Sylvia was my oldest sister, and then there was me, and then Pat, Catherine, and then Tom. And we all got along pretty well. And Tommy got spoiled, of course, because he was the youngest. And yeah, but we all mingled well, and shopped together and had fun together. Mm-hmm. Well, it seemed like we all got along well. When he came along, of course, we were all working or whatever. But Uncle Tom was, he stood up for our wedding. We had to rent a tuxedo. And of course, he slid all over the church floor, the dance hall floor, that we had to buy the tuxedo. But he was like about 3 or 4 at that time. Because, yeah. He was born in 53, and we got married in 57, yeah. Well, Aunt Sil and I, we were closest in age, and but then as Aunt Pat came along and Catherine, we all had our own friends, actually, in the neighborhood that we didn't, do that much together, actually. Just, the normal thing, but...
So did you grow up in the same house, or did you guys move around at all when you were growing up?
No, we were in the same house.
All right, so who were some of the neighbors? Did your neighbors come and go, or did you grow up with anyone like you said you had people to play with?
Yeah, I had, there were about 3 close friends that I had living down the street. And they all had friends there in the neighborhood. And then we had some behind us that we hung out with all the time. So, but we were all with our friends too. We had to try and keep our bedroom clean. And anytime we were having company, we'd have to hurry and clean up, and everything got shoved under the bed. It's like my office today. But, oh, yes, Aunt Sil and I had to cut the grass because my grandfather couldn't. He had a bad leg, and he'd sit there and watch us and make sure we did a good job. And we had an old push mower, of course, and we had a big front yard. And but that was one of our chores that we had to do.
So did you have a big house, or did you have to share rooms with anyone, or?
Aunt Sil and I shared a room, and yeah, it was a 2-story house, which is now, they just tore it down last year, in fact, when they were cleaning up that area for the expressway. And, but we all, yeah, there were bedrooms upstairs and down. There were 3 bedrooms downstairs, so my mom and dad's, and then Aunt Sil and I had one. When my grandparents were living, well, the 2 younger ones weren't there yet, or the 3, and then there was a bedroom upstairs. But when I was 12, I think I started working at the community center right across the street. It was called the Delray Christian Neighborhood House. Mr. and Mrs. Urshay were in charge there. And we used to have clubs going on over there. And she asked me if I would help in the office one day. So I started working, I think, just before I went to high school. And, but we spent a lot of time at the community center, which was directly across from us. That's been torn down too, just last year. And we used to go to camp a week every summer. It was Camp Kiwanis. And we used to enjoy that and look forward to it.
Let's see. So growing up, did you have any pets?
Yes, we had a dog. it stayed outside, and I don't remember its name though. But I said it's many years ago.
Was it Chester?
No, I don't. It wasn't Chester back then. I really can't remember.
No, I was just asking because my dad always jokes that all of great grandpa's dogs' names were Chester.
It could have been. It was probably my dad's dog then.
So who did the cooking in your family?
My mom did most. Well, when my grandparents were living, my grandmother did a lot of it. And then after they passed, my mom was, and then working.
Did you have a favorite food that they made?
Oh, they used to make zelnik, yes, of course. And Mom was a very good cook, though. Whatever she made was always good, yeah.
So are they the ones that taught you how to make zelnik?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, we used to rent a cottage, like up around Pontiac, so they could go fishing. And and every weekend they'd meet at the park in Dearborn on Cherry Hill over there. They'd play cards every weekend. We used to go there when they weren't fishing. And but mainly that was our vacations. We didn't like travel to any other state that I can remember, or like to Florida or wherever.
So what else did your family do for fun? Did you guys, other than cards and going fishing, did you like have any movies that you liked watching together or going out to see? Did you guys go to the movies at all or watch any shows?
Not as a family, but Aunt Sil and I, and all the rest of us, we had the Grande Theater down the street on Jefferson, and we went every Saturday to the movies. Yeah, that was on Saturday, and but yeah, other than that.
Did you have like a favorite movie or a favorite actress or actor that you like to watch for movies?
Of course, Superman and Batman and all those. I don't remember their names back then, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, and then did you like to listen to the radio?
Oh yes, that was all we had for many, many years, and I would always listen to WJR in the mornings, and No, it wasn't all music, but there were a couple of programs that we used to listen to, but I don't recall the names anymore.
That is okay. Let's see.
And it could have been Superman back then on the radio.
I've heard, yeah.
I think so, because I think it was programs like that.
Lone Ranger, I think.
Yeah, the Lone Ranger. You're right. Yeah. See, I didn't remember him, but yeah.
So, did you have a best friend growing up, or did you have several different people that you hung around with?
There were several, but Betty Greshko, she and I hung out all together, and I had Angel and Charlene, and yeah, there were several. One of them I went to school with, and the other two lived down the street. Yeah.
All right, perfect.
They would come over, and I'd go there, and we'd play catch or whatever, jacks, on the sidewalk, and things like that. That's what we did.
Yeah.
I liked all of my teachers. And favorite subject, I'm not really sure. I liked math, that I enjoyed, and I was in the dramatic club, but we didn't do anything too much in there. But and in the public speaking, I took that. Several things. I don't remember all of them anymore. It's been so long ago. I did skip school once and got into trouble.
Say it, Grandma. You were going to say deep shit. Go ahead.
I was. Oh my gosh. Yeah, my girlfriend and I decided we were skipping school that day, and we went to the park and swang on the swings. And they called my mother to see where I was, and Mom didn't know about it. So when I got home, I told her what we did because I had no choice. But that was the only time I really did that. But we had a fun day.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What was that one story I remember you telling me about how you went into a room and with you and your friend and you just smoked and like the smoke was coming out or whatever?
Oh, no, that was at Aunt Sill's room up at Olivet College. We went to visit her one week in Maryland. She was my best friend in high school, and we did everything together. But we went up there on the bus, spent the weekend, and Aunt Sill had a party to go to, so she went to where she was going, and Marilyn and I stayed in her room, and we decided we got a pack of cigarettes and we tried smoking. And the room was filled with smoke, and it was going out the door, and one of the residents knocked on the door to see if everything was all right in there because there was smoke coming out. And that was the only time I tried smoking. I didn't like it. I got so sick.
So was that while you were in high school or was that after you graduated from high
That
school?
was while we were in high school.
Let's see. Have you attended any of your high school reunions?
I did the first one, the 25-year one, and that was depressing.
Why was it depressing?
Well, there were some that had passed away, and then there were some that were so slim and beautiful in high school. They got so fat, and it just wasn't. It was okay, but I never went. I don't know if they ever had another one after that, or they didn't invite me.
They probably didn't. Let's see here. Do you have any favorite holidays?
Oh.
Back then, did you look forward to any holidays?
Oh, we always enjoyed Christmas. Yeah, my dad, he worked with a salesman on the side, and they were selling toys and all. And so we always had some nice gifts, at Christmas. And so that was always kind of fun. But we enjoyed Christmas. Well, after high school, I was still working at the Delray Neighborhood House. And then I dated a few times. My girlfriend Charlene had friends, we'd go out on double dates. But other than that, I worked, and then I met Grandpa, and we were double dating with Marilyn and a friend of his for, several years there. But other than that, I worked, and I was a secretary, for the church committee and things or the ladies' club it was. But
So what year did you meet Grandpa?
I think in '55 when he was discharged.
So did you know beforehand that he and Aunt Sil went out a couple of times?
Yes, I did.
And you were like, I'm going to snatch this man up?
Well, I start writing to him because back then when he was in the service, he was in during the Korean War. And I was still in high school, and that's where they all graduated from. He graduated before Aunt Sil. And they had a list of names because they were saying with all the servicemen in there from, Southwestern High, if they wanted to start writing to these people. And she had stopped writing to him, so I thought, well, I'll start writing. And he was from the neighborhood, and Marilyn, I think, wrote to someone that she knew. And and then when he was discharged, we met. So he used to write real nice letters, though, and interesting.
How long did you write to him for?
Could be over a year. I'm not, I can't really remember when that all came. Maybe in 53, maybe 2 years.
So when he was discharged and he came back here, do you remember what your first date was?
We went for a walk. We used to walk a lot because he didn't have a car yet. And because his sister lived a few blocks away, so we would walk there and visit. And, well, we got married in St. Clement Church. Grandpa was raised as a Catholic, but he did convert. And because I think, like in the service, whether they went or not, he was away from the church. But we got, back then, all the weddings from the Orthodox Church were on Sundays. So we got married Sunday afternoon. I think it was like at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or whatever. And we had about 150, guests. And the church had a hall right next door to it, and we got married in church and had the dinner and the dance in the hall. Maid of honor was my friend Ruth. She's since passed away. Then Aunt Marnie stood up, and Aunt Pat, and my cousin Christine.
And then who was on Grandpa's side?
His best friend was his best man, Jim Leffler. He's passed away as well. Uncle Peter stood up. Johnny, who lived in the neighborhood. And I think my cousin Jim, I think it was. I have to look at the picture. It's been so long.
That's all right. Did a lot of Grandpa's family attend, or was it more so friends and like your side of the family?
Oh, it was all the families came. And then he belonged to the Booth Association, and so all the Booths had to be invited. That happened at all the weddings. They were always there. And then we had a Macedonian orchestra. And then my dad got a couple of the Hungarian violinists from Del Rey to come in and play the Csárdás for us, because Grandpa's family and all were Hungarian. So that was kind of nice.
That is really cool. Mm-hmm. I like that.
The first church was on 25th Street off of Michigan Avenue in Detroit. And it was 1960, I believe, when they built the new church in Dearborn. Because it was about, 1962 is when Uncle Chris was born. I'm trying to think if he was baptized in the new church or in the, we were using that hall right behind the Armenian Center over there, and on Ford Road. You might have seen it there. The church was, we borrowed that and had church services in there until ours was finished. But
So this is going to kind of backtrack a little bit. So growing up, did you go to church every Sunday?
pretty much. We had to take the bus, and my mom would take us. My dad was never a real churchgoer. And my grandmother and grandfather used to go. He had a bad leg, but he would try to go. And so we were, raised in the Orthodox Church, because my mom was raised as a Catholic as well,
So what was your honeymoon like, or where did you guys go?
We went up north. Uncle Peter and Aunt Marnie were caretakers of the funeral home, John Solosi Funeral Home, and at that time it was on Jefferson Avenue in Detroit. And he had a place up there on Black Lake, and he let us use it for the week, which was nice. Yeah, that's the first time we had gone up there.
So after you and Grandpa were married, where did you live?
We got an upper flat in Southwest Detroit on Keller Street. And we lived there for about a couple of years, and then we moved to Vanderbilt in the same area. and had a lower flat there. And because my friend Clara Ellick, her mom owned the house, and they lived upstairs, and we lived down. And then when Uncle Chris got sick, we moved back with my mom and dad because I went back to work, and then she was, taking care of him. Firstborn was Christopher, and that was in 1962. We were still on Vanderbilt Street then. And then Mark was born in 1969. And and that was here in Taylor, yeah. After we moved, yeah. While we were living at my mom and dad's, I was working. She was watching Uncle Chris, but then she still kind of worked at the Delray Hospital, and they had a renter upstairs, and he would come down and sit. His name was Pete. He would sit with Uncle Chris at the time, and I think that's where he got his TB. He came down with TB adenitis, which was in the gland in his throat. It never affected his lungs, fortunately. And that burst open, they drained. He was in the hospital a few times with that. But fortunately, he didn't get it where it was, lifelong there. He was sick for it for about a year and a half. I had to give him shots of streptomycin every day for 9 months, and that affected his sight and his hearing. And then he became allergic to the oral medication. They gave him the wrong dose or the wrong strength, and he was in the hospital with that, quite sick. But fortunately, he came out of it okay.
So, was Grandpa here at that time, or was he off working?
He was traveling quite a bit, with his job with the university. And he was gone for several months at a time. And that's why we had moved back by my mom and dad's to begin with. But he was here for a good part of it, but I remember my mom always holding Chris's leg so I could, give him the shot and all. But Grandpa, like I say, when they traveled, he was gone for weeks or a month, 2 months. He would call, yeah. He would send a postcard here and there, but they were so busy there. And but he did send, he would call, most of the time, or the office would call me to let us know everything was all right, Well, he liked to play sports mostly, and he and his buddies would always play out here because we had the big lawn, and I think we had a basketball thing up there then for them too. I can't remember that, but he enjoyed going out with his friends and all, and he bowled and played ball, mostly baseball, and he hung out quite a bit.
All right, and then so what about your youngest?
Well, my youngest was fun-loving, and he and Chris got along pretty well. And he, too, always had his friends. They'd sometimes come and have lunch during their lunch hour outside here. And but Mark was sportsy as well. He enjoyed playing, football, baseball. And then in high school, of course, he played football and enjoyed that.
So when they were younger, obviously there was an age gap.
Yes, yeah.
So with that, were there any things that you did with them individually, or did you always do stuff together as a family? Did you ever take them to go places?
Yeah, well, I used to like to take them to the state fair, and they enjoyed it, but once was enough, like for your dad. I didn't want to go back. I used to like to go because I used to like to get the hot pretzels and candy apples, stuff like that. So, needless to say, we didn't make too many trips to the state fair, but we'd go to the parks and all and do what we could.
Was there, did you guys ever go on any vacations as a family?
Mostly up north, because by then my mom and dad had bought the land up north. And that was actually, my dad started building around 1962. So after, and they were staying at Mr. Eldridge's house next door. Mr. Eldridge was the caretaker at the Delray neighborhood house where I worked. And when he retired, he bought a place, the one right on the corner, where Jerose used to live. And so Grandpa and my dad would go up, and they'd spend the night there while they were building. So that worked out. And then Uncle Chris really would go up and spend summers up there as well as your dad when he was old enough. They'd rather go up there than anywhere, or be home, because there they could fish and do whatever. So that's where they spent most of their vacations. And we did go down south, but Uncle Chris went home once with Uncle Joe and Aunt Laura and spent a few weeks. And then when we went down there, Uncle Chris didn't come. It was just your dad. And we went to Disneyland. And we went to Uncle Joe and Laura's first and then went there for a few days. But actually, but most of our trips were up north. And then we'd go, my sisters and their kids would be up there, and we would take trips up north to the different places.
So, would you say that your children were closer to your side of the family or Grandpa's side of the family?
Probably with ours, because we did more things together. And but Aunt Marnie and Uncle Peter were close with us, but they had just Paulette, and the boys. I mean, we didn't really do that much, except for the holidays. They would always be invited over to my mom and dad's too, and actually that's the only one he had here was Aunt Marnie, because everyone else lived out of town. So, and they enjoyed it. My dad and Uncle Peter used to get along well. So.
One thing, remember he said when he came up here, one of his brothers came with him?
I clarified it was both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
And then went back to Louisiana or something?
Yeah, so I think Uncle Joe went back to Louisiana, or he went to Georgia though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Andy, did he stay up here? Do you know?
No, he lived on the farm in Albany.
So what, did he come up and go to school here? That's just a side. I was just wondering, did he go and then
Yeah, so they all came up here because they came up when Grandpa was 10 or 11, and then so they all came up here, went to school, and then I'm assuming Andy went back down after high school.
Okay, that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
Wasn't it weird how his dad came up here like 4 years before to go to
Well, that's kind of like how you got like people from like the Filipinos, when they come over here, they'll stay and make money, and then let everybody come up. I figure it's like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and then Uncle Joe, well, he was in the, I don't know if he was in the Army.
Okay.
And I don't think Uncle Andy was in the service, but then Grandpa was in the Air Force. But Andy wanted to stay down there on the farm. They were strawberry farmers. And so he lived there with the grandparents. Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I clarified, because whenever he said it, it sounded like one brother went up, so I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, but so, yeah.
I'll get back to you.
Sorry, little sidebar. So with that, I guess going back to your children specifically, did your relationship differ between each kid, or did you have the same relationship, or?
Pretty much the same relationship. Yeah, loved them both dearly and enjoyed them. They were good kids, really. Never had a problem.
There is never where you had to pop one in the nose.
Oh, well, I used to use a yardstick when I had to, yes. Right on the butt or the leg. I was afraid to get too close to either one of them by that time. But they used to leave their little cars all over the place. So one time I really got mad and I threw them all down the steps. But other than that, they were pretty good. We got along well.
All right, good. Let's see. What was Uncle Chris and my dad's relationship like with your parents?
Oh, it was very good, yeah. That's why they spend so much time up there. and my dad and, like Uncle Chris or your dad, they go shopping with my dad, and Mom would stay home. But they enjoyed them both.
All right, let's see. Do you have any specific memory that pops out with either together or separately for Uncle Chris and my dad, that when you're like, you think of your kid and you think of this particular event that happened? Or something that you just associate with them?
Oh, the only thing that really sticks in my mind is when your dad was playing football. I was busy talking with one of his football players' mother. We were too busy talking. Anyway, your dad got hurt and got carried off the field, I guess. And he wasn't real bad, but I didn't know what happened. And I thought, why isn't he playing? But I kept watching. I was so worried about him getting injured. And then when he did, I missed it. But other than that, yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, that just it's always stuck in my mind, or I thought, oh gosh, I didn't know that much about football to begin with, but I used to go sit to all his games.
There's nothing wrong with that. You were there for the support.
Oh gosh.
Let's see. So it asks, did you enjoy being a mother? And do you enjoy being a grandmother?
Oh, I certainly do. Yes, I loved my boys dearly, and did what I could for them and with them, and I love my grandkids very much. And today I'm so thankful I have two wonderful grandkids, I tell you.
We got you, Grandma. We got you.
Yeah.
Let's see, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. Alright, so it's asking if you have any memories around the following events that happened in the world. So we've got like World War II and the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Do you have anything that sticks out to you like that maybe was done in school, that you had to prepare for or anything, or anything that was going on in the media or any shortages?
I don't remember too much, except when we lived on Vanderbilt. I think that was during that Korean conflict, and there was so much talk about bomb threats, and I was very terrified at the time, because I didn't know where to go or what to do, and Grandpa was like away on trips or whatever, and it was a scary time, but that's all they talked about was, being, taken over or whatever.
What about when you lived in Detroit and the Detroit riot? Were you in Detroit with the Detroit riots?
Yes, we were actually. And I think at the time, I'm trying to think if we came back and stayed by my dad's, because my mom was up north with Uncle Chris, and Cotty was there, and my dad was at home, and Aunt Kathy was at home, and I think Grandpa and I went there to stay with them. And there were people on the street walking with handguns, my dad included, and scared us because he kept going to check out places, you know. And but it was a scary, scary time. Nothing happened to our house, but they set, I think it was the house behind us, or just on the other street. I think they set that on fire. And the firemen were even afraid to go there because of the people mulling around. But yeah, it was a bad time.
Was Uncle Chris sick at this time?
That was in 68. Yeah.
Oh,
No, he was okay then, yeah, but he was up north with Cotty and my mom.
Right. I gotcha. So I want because I have a theory that your father was a mobster, that he was in the mafia. So, tell me a little bit about him and his bar in Detroit and just his other happenings in life for that.
Well, no, I never thought of him as that. His cousin Nick Stefanoff, he looked like the mafia, but my dad I never thought about him that way, and he used to go to the coffee club all the time, but that's what they did back then. And in fact, the building next door to us, that in Del Rey, that one's still standing. That was an Armenian coffee club, and now it's some kind of a church in there. But yeah, Dad used to go play cards and go to the coffee club quite a bit, but he wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it was mafia. No, he never did. We never got into any kind of trouble.
So what about his bar downtown or in Detroit?
He had the bar on 8 Mile. 8 Mile and Mound Road. It was on Mound Road, and but that was a bar and a restaurant. And I remember Ansel and I used to go down there. We'd wash dishes and stuff, and then they had those table games where you rolled the ball, and so we used to spend time there. We'd take a bus down. My mom would take us, and then she would be cleaning up and all. But that was before we had any kids or, you know.
Yeah. Is there anything else about the life that you would like to ask before I get into, like, your final words? Because you're almost near the end, Grandma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm trying to think if there was anything. Yeah, before I got to that, I was
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Pick up there. Yeah.
Alright, so, let's see. So this question asks to describe your passions in life. So any people, or hobbies, or sports, or any other activities or organizations that you're very passionate or still are passionate about.
Well, I used to enjoy taking classes. One of my neighbors who passed away, for about 5-6 years, we took classes together because she drove and, I didn't have the car. So we enjoyed going to this, when they came out with the stretch fabrics, we learned how to use those and make our own patterns and everything. I always enjoyed sewing, and then we took a cooking class, and other than that, I was involved with the church quite a bit. But other than that, I don't recall any other. I would take classes at the high school and things that were interesting,
So I do want to.
Gotta go preheat the oven. I'll be back.
Oh.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So I want to circle back a little bit because I forgot about this. Just tell us like a brief, I guess, overview of what your work history looks like. Because obviously, you know, you worked and then you didn't work, and then you worked and then you worked, and then you had weird dips.
Well, my first job was with the neighborhood house in Delray, and then I went to Dodge Community House, which was on the east side of town. I had to take 3 buses to get there, but I enjoyed it. I was always in clerical work, mostly accounts receivable, and there too, I was in payables, and the auditor would come in every month. I'd make out the checks and all, and he would check everything and sign them. And then from there, I went to the library, the main library downtown Detroit, and worked there with Marilyn. She got me the job there. They were looking for someone. So I was there for about 5 years. And then, I left there when I had your dad in 69. So I stayed home for a couple of years, and then I was working part-time, still at the library, but for friends of the library. I only went in a few days a week. And then after that, I was home for a good stretch of years, but then Grandpa lost his job, and so I went back to take classes, and I ended up at Wolf Engineering, and I was there for 13 years. And the reason I left there is because they closed our plant. I moved everything to Grand Rapids. So, but I was always in either receptionist or accounts receivable.
So for the last place that you mentioned, was that Meridian?
Meridian, yeah. They changed their name. It started off with Wolf Engineering, then it went to Cambridge Industries, and then it went to Meridian.
Yeah, because I remember you always calling it Meridian, so that's why I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
did I miss something? Did I dream something up?
Yeah. So it was 13 years total from Wolf, but it was the same company, but some of the buyers left, or the owners, and yeah.
No, because I remember we used to have your office phone number on the fridge, and I would call you sometimes.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know if you remember that, but I remember that.
Yeah.
I used to bug you.
I enjoyed working, though.
Yeah.
I really did.
All right, and then so now it really is just kind of like just what's in your brain of how you feel about stuff.
Oh,
Okay?
gosh.
It's okay. We're honestly almost done. So this asks, what was the best thing that ever happened to you, and what was the worst thing that ever happened to you?
I guess getting married is the best thing. The worst thing? I don't know.
Yeah. No, that one is difficult.
Yeah. I miss going to church, I really do. The past 2 years, I think, has been the worst thing. You know, everything that I can't do anymore. And, yeah, that's probably it. My life as it is now.
Oh, God. Jeez, Grandma.
Aw.
Alright, so... Gee whiz, this just keeps going. Are there any life lessons that you would like to pass along to your grandchildren? So, us or your great-grandchildren or the future generations to come?
Always treat others the way you'd like to be treated. That has always been something I always try to impress on. And I just can't think.
Well, no, that's good. Like, Grandpa's, his was like, live life basically the way that you want to live it. To not try to appease other people.
Well,
So, yeah. So, I mean, your guys is, both good things. Doesn't have to be deep, Grandma. Let's see. This asks, what are you looking forward to in the years to come?
Oh, I'd like a longer life and one that would be a little more comfortable.
And then looking back, would you say that you had a good life?
Yes, very much so.
Why?
I've enjoyed my families and the things I do. Sometimes I wish I could have done other things or enjoyed other things that I might have liked, but I've been happy with what I've done.
So, if you feel like sharing, what are some of those other things that you wish that you could have expanded on?
I would have liked to maybe have traveled maybe, or seen different places, but I really was never a traveler. That was the thing. So I enjoy seeing these things on TV and know what they look like. But yeah, I never traveled that much, but that might be one thing I might have liked to have done.
Let's see. So that's technically the last question I have on here. Do you have anything else that after, our little interview conversation session here that you feel that you kind of want to talk more about, or anything else you want to share? That you're like, Jessica, what the heck? You didn't ask me about this.
I can't really think of anything. I love my entire family very much and appreciate everything. Other than that, I think I'm okay.
All right, that's fine. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I want to ask her, if there's a story that I want you to tell. Because, a lot of it's things that you have told me, obviously, that like even my dad has told me about, especially like his grandparents, right? So like your parents. So that's why I was kind of trying to go there, because I know that was a big, part of your guys' lives were, very family oriented.
Yeah, but the fishing trips I just remember, and they were. Anytime we could go fishing, we'd be fishing, and then the cousins would be there, so we'd be playing volleyball or whatever. But I can just remember all these weekends up around Pontiac Lake, and wherever we could go fishing.
Yeah, I honestly think that's it then, Grandma. We'll just keep it rolling for right now until Jeff gets back, and in case he has something else that he wants to ask. But
okay. Should I turn this off or not? No.
That's fine. I'm still just...
Yeah, but other than that, yeah. I'm trying to think of anything that stands out.
When did your parents move over to this house where they live?
Oh gosh, when was it? Because Delray was getting really bad at the time. And they were looking. I'm trying to think. Gosh, I don't remember if it was early 80s when they moved here. It was a while after we had. And then my mom would walk over, for her walks. And my dad was still working at the time. But, and then after a few years, they moved up north and stayed there. And they liked it up there. They had, the Ravans lived right on the corner. And then right across was Brasco. And then they had another friend, Joe Engberg, up on the other corner. So they enjoyed it up there.
So, like... No. I like it up there though too. I said, I don't know, I like it up there too.
Yeah.
Would you say that they had a favorite grandchild? I know no one's supposed to ask if they have favorites, but do you think they had a favorite grandchild?
Well, I can tell you they really loved your dad and Uncle Chris. Yeah. They were closest to them. And I think it was the same way, you know, for the kids. They spent all their time up there. and my dad would always let them sip the beer, I think. It could be why, I don't know. My dad was a beer drinker.
Yeah.
Mom would have one occasionally, but not that much.
Did you like drinking at all?
I used to like wine, but then once I was on medication, I couldn't have that anymore, but that was all.
So what was that like, finding out that you had diabetes?
I was devastated when I found that out, and yeah.
How old
But-
were you?
I was just over 40 when I got it, so it's been a long time now.
Did your mom have diabetes?
Oh yeah, Mom was a diabetic, and she was a type 2 like I am, you know. But I do remember one fun time Uncle Peter and I used to make, we were making pickles. They used to come over and we would make things together, and we got so pickled that we were laughing more than anything. We were drinking and pickling cucumbers. But that was fun. Yeah, we used to do, you know, he was a fun guy, really. Aunt Marnie was more reserved, but